Good morning. Good morning. It is a beautiful May morning, and I was inspired to come out here on my porch and talk a little bit about the Maying traditions that we are doing our program right now. We've been recording tracks for a couple of days, and they're going to start being put together by Vince. Hopefully shortly. Kate is working on it, maybe Olivia. Who knows? Who knows whose voices you're going to be hearing? But here we are this morning. We're at Berrywood, which is our home, mine and Olivia's, and you can see the microphone intruding. Hello, I'm the microphone. I guess I'm in a goofy mood. We have birds here. They're flying around. They're happy with me. I have fed them. They have seeds. We have bells. Hear them? The wind just started blowing. And we have berries, lots and lots of berries. This land used to be a berry picking place. Maybe 100 years ago, people would come up in their wagons and they'd pick all day and go home and can, and this was the place that they came. There are some 12-foot high blueberry bushes here, believe it or not, and so we get a lot of early insects coming to feed. And you might think I'm digressing, but I'm not, because I woke up this morning, well, not woke up, in my meditations. I came to a place of just so much gratitude, personal gratitude for these Maying traditions, because they have fed me. They have given me a place and a structure to put my attentions and my interest and my talents and it's like enough material to dig into for the rest of my life and beyond. And I feel so excited by that, being able to dig into what are these songs about. And it's not a secret, it's not a surprise, I'm not the first, but for me, the visceral pleasure of being able to find values and joy and the cycle of the seasons, and basically an expression of ancient expression, at least the roots are very, very ancient, of how we became human, really, I think, and what makes us the kind of humans. It instructs us on how to be the kind of humans we have been on this earth, the kind of humans we can be on this earth, and perhaps a little bit about where we have gone astray. I often talk about that we are immersed in a toxic culture, and why I love these traditions so much is because they give us direction about how to step aside from toxic culture, build the kind of community that we deserve, that we are fully equipped. But it takes courage, because it forces us to break away from the values and ways that we've learned in the past that have basically cut us off at the knees from being as closely knitted into the earth and nature. We are earth and nature. And we have lost many of those connections, and we are here at EarthSpirit, as you all know, are in the business of reconnecting that, our spirit, our magic, ourselves, and what's all around us. So I'm so happy to be able to come out here and do this. I didn't think of it until this morning when I woke up feeling so grateful. So there'll be more, but this is going to be a little bit in the style, partly because our technological tools are so amazing, and yet also, like, who am I? I don't know anything about how to make a movie. So we're going to do this in the style of a 1950s documentary, and here's the scholar artist person talking about their art, blah blah blah, and then suddenly, hark! What do I hear? Could that be a Maying crew? Why, coming to sing and bring their blessings to us? I'd better hustle inside and get them something good to eat, and something to offer them, and something to offer the trees, and to feed the domestic animals upon whom I depend for my food, and my family, and my riches, and my stores, and my arbor, and the plants that every single day sacrifice themselves for my food and the food and sustenance of my family and my beloveds. Let's listen.
of all the trees that grow so fair, old England to adorn. Greater are none beneath the sun than oak and ash and thorn. Sing oak and ash and thorn, all on a midsummer's morn. Surely we sing of no little thing in oak and ash and thorn. Oak of the clay lived many a day ere in years began. Ash of the Lawn was a lady at home when Brooke was an outlaw man. And Thorn of the Down saw new Troy town from which was London born. Witness thereby the ancient try of oak and ash and thorn. Sing oak and ash and thorn, my loves, all on a midsummer's morn. Surely we sing of no little thing in oak and ash and thorn. Yew that is old and churchyard mouldy breedeth a mighty bow. Alder for shoes do wise men choose, and beech for cups also. But when you have killed in your bowl it is filled, and your shoes are clean outworn, back you must be for all that you need to oak and ash and thorn. Sing oak and ash and thorn, all on a midsummer's morn. Surely we sing of no little thing in oak and ash and thorn. Elm she hates mankind and waits till every gust be laid, to drop the limb on the head of him who anyway trusts her shade. But whether a lad be sober or sad, or male with ale from the horn, he taketh no wrong when he lieth alone neath oak and ash and thorn. Sing oak and ash and thorn, my loves, all on a midsummer's morn. Surely we sing of no little thing in oak and ash and thorn. Oh, do not tell the priest our plight, for he would call it a sin. For we've been out in the woods all night, conjuring summer in. We bring good news by word of mouth, good news for cattle and corn. Now as the sun come up in the south by oak and ash and thorn. Sing oak and ash and thorn, all on a midsummer's morn. Surely we sing of no little thing in oak and ash and thorn. Sing oak and ash and thorn, all on a midsummer's morn. Surely we sing of no little thing in oak and ash and thorn.
Oh, that was wonderful. Wasn't that Oak and Ash and Thorn? Technically not a traditional song and not something that has come through the oral tradition, because it was a poem written by Rudyard Kipling in the style of such songs, but also it was put to music by Peter Bellamy, who's more from, was young in the 1960s from the group Young Traditions, but so well done, so well done. And we all sing together, but of course we have learned these songs since we were toddlers, and that's how it works. So if you're new to this culture, it is okay to be like a toddler and not quite know what's going on, not know the songs well, and we don't do, shame, we just join in boisterously, and when we learn the words, we do know them, and then if we don't know the words, we have lyrics, or we just pretend. It's all fine. You might notice that I am now the mistress of this house, and I'm wearing my silk. Isn't it lovely? I don't know if you can tell, it goes from sort of pink to blue. It's really nice. And I'm wearing we have a bag of necklaces. There's sort of two kinds of characters that go in, that interact in the visiting traditions the way we have manifested them. And one are the manor folk, or the householders. So even at Rites of Spring, as muddy and stinky and cranky and hungover as you may be, if you're in your tent or your cabin and the visitors are coming and they're singing one of those songs, you become the householder. So it behooves you to have something to give to them, because the giving creates the circle in which the blessing that they are giving can be received by you and yours and your household. So just keep that in mind. The degree of graciousness with which you behave, and generosity, it doesn't mean you have to give beyond your means. Do you hear? It just means that you have to give. If you've packed everything but your nice smiles, that's that. If you still have around, your extra bags of Trader Joe's Marcona almonds and chocolate, and the last of the fabulous scotch or soft drinks that you had were using last night, that's what you give. Sometimes we have gone to places where they have, I believe it was the Titans that they gave us Nutella. We remembered that. And of course, we went to the Heathens the very first year we went there. They were not in very good shape and maybe not even speaking to each other. I don't know. But did they put out? They did. Beautiful chocolate, running over, like practically tripping over themselves to bring the offerings. And we had not even educated them. They didn't even know, but they were properly brought up. And by that I mean they were taught. And in traditional cultures, we would have learned this when we were toddlers. We would have learned this growing up, but now we have to choose to learn it. At a place like Rites of Spring, you go to hear something, you choose who you want to learn from, and if you've been taught properly, and in my view, you've learned to know how to give and take blessings and to give offerings when blessings are given. So, but I digress, but nothing is actually a digression. So I'm wearing my manor folk outfit. This today is a mistress outfit for no particular reason. You can be a mister or mistress or a mister or a master or a child, any of the roles. Sometimes we have taken gender out of the songs. Olivia and I had great long discussions about this over time, and so we have some places where we've taken the gender out and some places where we've left it in, and you can choose, just to be clear. So these are the manor folk necklaces. This is how we distinguish when, if someone isn't properly attired, we run up and give them the proper attire, like a golden necklace tells them that even in their raggedy, stinky, tank top, that they are still the manor folk. And then we also have a bunch of the multicolored ones. So these are the silver and gold ones, obviously of much more value. And I just wanted to show you, if I can, and I've noticed that it's really hard for me to be able to show you things because of angles and cameras is here, you know what's happening. So I am the manor folk, manor mistress today, and I am I'm showing you what we are offering, my household. I'm only going to show you one cup because there are 5, which is enough for me and the 4 singers that I presumed that are here, behind the curtain here, the third wall, shall we say. So this is a lovely drink of some kind, and in my grandmother's glasses, only the finest for such an occasion. The only thing in my cupboard that I have that has color is these dried rose hips. So they stand in for, I don't know, something maybe, I don't know. But we've had many beautiful things, home-baked things, just a little bit of some beautiful cheese, nuts, maybe something with some protein so we don't go overboard with the sugar. That happens every year. Here's some very beautiful dark chocolate. It happens to be my favorite. I put a lot on this plate here because I want the visitors to be enjoying it. As long as we're talking about stuff, I will show you some more things that are part of our visiting tradition, sort of tools, as it were. Right here, oh boy, am I going to do a good job of this? I don't know. Here are the Maying necklaces. I'll put all of those on in a little while too, maybe, who knows. And here's one of our favorite items. When it's cold, Maying people, somebody often will wear this very thick, wonderful sweater, and you might notice that the sweater and the scarf, the stole, really this is pride wear, right? This is pride wear. So visiting traditions, Maying stuff, and pride wear, there's a lot, complete overlap, just so you kind of understand where this fits in the great scheme of things. This is, British Isles people, they could be pretty dour, especially as they got more and more Protestant. These are my people, I can say that. But this was the time to kind of cut loose a little bit. All right, we're going to go on to the next song, and I will share more things with you as we go on. So thank you, Visiting Tradition. Can I come show you the cow? How do you pronounce that? Beer? We'll go to the arbor. We'll go to the arbor, and you can see the arbor, and then, one of you will come on and talk a little bit. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Unite and unite and let's all unite, for summer is a-coming today. And whither we are going, we all will unite in the merry morning of May.
The young folk of Padstow, they might if they would,
for summer is a-comin' today.
They might have built a ship and gilded it with gold
In the merry morning of May.
The young folk of Padstow, they might if they would,
For summer is a-comin' today.
they might have built a garland with the white rose and the red
In the merry morning of May. Unite and let's all unite, for summer is a-comin' today. And whither we are going, we all will unite in the merry morning of May. Up merry spring and up the merry ring, for summer is a-comin' today. How happy are those little birds that merrily they do sing in the merry morning of May. Now fare you well, and we bid you all good cheer, for summer is a-comin' today. We'll call no more until your house before another year in the merry morning of May. Unite and let's all unite, for summer is a-comin' today. And whither we are going, we all will unite in the merry morning of May.
Hey, I'm glad you liked the song. Yeah, this is us. This is the visiting crew kind of look. I know it's so cool. It's so cool you can hardly stand it, right? Like my dad used to say, if you don't think this is cool, you don't know what cool is. Yeah, he was also the person who said never cheat. And it was made by Natalie. And this demonstrates that all of these kind of fabulosities can be repurposed throughout the season. It's not about getting more and different and filling up your house with stuff for each different season necessarily. It's kind of a swap in and swap out kind of thing. I'm also wearing, this is the official, my official visiting traditions maying or wassailing shirt here, and the crown I just created from the flowers in my garden. So I'm going to tell you about the song you just heard. Am I right about that? Yes, the song you just heard, Padstow, which is from Cornwall. This is the most ancient song I believe that we're going to sing, although maybe Hallintoe is ancient also. I'm probably going to pause because a friend of mine is just driving up, and in these days of isolation, just going to be able to say hello to someone is just like, it's a huge event in my day. I mean, if it were the UPS truck, it would be the same. Like, I'd go out and say hello, how you doing? So you just hang on there for a second. I'll pause this. So you can tell from my droopy flowers that it's been a little bit longer than I thought. I did hang out with my friend Molly. We were able to hang out in the grass, which was so nice, and I ate violets and she ate her lunch that she hadn't eaten before, and I shared with her some of the offering items that mistress of the manor person shared, suitably wiped down, of course, and so a good time was had by all. Oops, I forgot the microphone. The volume level's going up and down. Anyway, Padstow. The funnest thing about Padstow, very ancient tradition you find, and if you ever get to hear Anders Corbin Arthen talk about the indigenous traditions of Europe, his travels and the people that he met and his what he found about them, sometimes called the Indians of Old Europe, other things like that. I'm taking these out, they're just distracting. That the old songs from Cornwall, like Padstow, and Hallintoe comes from Fa somewhere, they conform to what he found, which is that the old traditions remain more or less the same in the furthest, the hardest to get to kinds of places. the outlier areas, and they retained the old traditions the longest as a result. So this nobody, they say, okay, on YouTube there's a documentary made in the 50s. Remember how I was saying I was making fun of that? So this is making fun of that video, more or less, about Padstow. You can find it easily, and what I really love about it is they're all like really kind of buttoned up and uptight, and like that kind of, like I said, Protestant waspy kind of way. My people, like I said, but they're acting out a tradition that is really old and quite raucous and raw, especially because it's a springtime thing. And so they have this abi os, it's called, which was originally like skin, made of skins and bones, and a person danced under it. It was probably a sacrificial rite of some kind, and it went along with the sacrifice of the kings. I don't know if anybody knows at this point. At this point in the 50s, it was already a frame made of wood, covered with like not tar paper, like sheets, like waterproof sheet, kind of that kind of thing. It looks really, really strange, and it's got a skull held above it, and the dancing is it's this big contraption and dances around like this. It's really cool, and somebody leads it, and it's very primitive in effect. And I love that the tradition is, and they say there's these 1950s young women, old girls, whatever, unmarried women, in their little skirts and their little pumps, and they say, and the tradition is that the young unmarried woman goes underneath the abios structure that has this dancing man in it, and when she comes out 9 months later, she'll be married. What do you think that tradition originally was? Do you think that it's like now she's engaged and 9 months later she'll be married? I don't think so. So talk about a fertility rite. And in this movie you see like his big brogue boots dancing around in her little shoes like this on the edge, and it's big enough for two, basically. So that basically takes us back to part of what the whole Maying, the fundamentals of what the Maying traditions are about. So I just wanted to share that with you. It's really cool. And they do have a guy on there saying that, quoted, he's at the bar, which is where they practice, the pub, and he's quoted and he says, yeah, in the 40s or 30s or 20s, I can't remember, he said the priests tried to shut us down, or the ministers tried to shut this down, but we just wouldn't have it. We just kept doing it anyway. And it's that kind of determination, even if it keeps going in a small way so that people keep learning. And now it's still continuing. And if those determined people hadn't done it, it could be gone. And I see us as part of that, tradition. These songs are meaningful. They're powerful. They have an old tradition. And we'll talk more about Maying itself a little later. Ciao. Oh, ciao. What am I saying?
Since we were first created, our works have been debated. We have celebrated the coming of the spring. Allantoe, jolly rumble-o, we were up long before the day-o, to welcome in the summer, to welcome in the day-o. Summer is a comin' in, and winter's gone away, oh. Take no scorn to wear the horn, it was your crest when you was born. Your father's father wore it, and your father wore it too. Allantoe, jolly rumble-o, we were up long before the day-o, to welcome in the summer, to welcome in the day-o. For summer is a comin' in, and winter's gone away, oh. Oh, bless spring goddess Freya, and all her power and might, oh. and send us peace throughout the land. Send peace by day and night, oh. Hallantoe, jolly rumble-o, we were up long before the day, oh, to welcome in the summer, to welcome in the May, oh. For summer is a-comin' in and winter's gone away, oh. What shall we have that killed the deer, his leather skin and horns to wear? Then sing him home without a care, the rest shall bear this burden. Hallantoe, jolly rumble-o, we were up long before the day, oh, to welcome in the summer, to welcome in the May, oh. For summer is a-comin' in and winter's gone away, oh.
Hope you enjoyed that version of Hallantoe. That's an ancient song called the Helston May Day Song from Cornwall, and it would rival the Padstow May Song. We don't know when both of those songs started. They're old traditions, and still an ongoing tradition in that part of the world, as far as I know. There's a traditional verse in there that usually goes, or a song that now, a verse that is now considered traditional. God bless Mary, Moses, and all the power and might, oh, and we back translated it freely to, oh, bless spring goddess Freya, and all her power and might, oh, and send us peace throughout the land, send peace at day and night, oh, because that was the old verse was about Freya in the book that I like to read. There's a guy who wrote a 5-volume book about the visiting traditions, mostly about wassailing, which is even bigger than Maying in terms of how it has come through, because it's sort of hitched a ride on Christmas carols. I used to think they were just like anemic Christmas carols. I couldn't stand them. They'd be in the books with these prissy looking Victorian people with, top hats and little wispy bonnets on, and I thought, can we just not do that? Can we just sing the Christmas carols and the hefty harmonies? And I loved that. And then I didn't know until I went to one of Juniper's workshops many years ago, maybe 10 years ago, and she was doing a wonderful workshop on the 12 days of what would it be called? I'm losing my concentration. Do you hear the cardinal? It's so nice. Basically the 12 days of Yule, and she talked about wassailing and how these songs came through and what they were really about. I was like, oh my goodness, and I fell in love with these traditions, as I talked about earlier. That's that for Hallantoe, and I'm just going to sing my favorite song to you and sort of share a little bit about what it's about. It's a sort of a classic setup of a Maying song, but I like the verses are very meaty and full of meaning, and I like that they're all packed together like that. And there's no chorus or refrain to this song, so it's actually kind of hard to sing in a Maying context, but we do it anyway. I don't know, maybe they just indulge me. They probably do. It's really nice of them. There were traditionally day songs and night songs for Maying. So May Day started at twilight in the evening, and there would be certain different kinds of ceremonies and songs that would be sung, and games actually that would happen at night than would happen in the daytime. So this song, which I call Bronham, I mean, it's a Bronham from the town of Bronham. We call it Bronham May Song, is a combination of night song and day song, and perhaps I will remember to point that out. And I will point out that it is getting to be evening, and I have lit my own little fire of Rites of Spring. This is the one I lit last night at our opening circle, and they look good on the camera, don't they? They do, yes. So it's here, just so you know. I like to read this there's a wonderful website called Mainly Norfolk, and he says there must be dozens of May songs from all over the country, and the collector Fred Harmer had his own extensive collection, blah blah blah. He says that a part of the ritual saw mayors making their feelings known about particular individuals while they were doing their rounds. It was important for people to have a branch of May placed at their doors because lack of it would certainly be seen as more than just a slight, but indeed it went further. A briar might be left to indicate a liar, either elder or hemlock, and stinging nettles for people of bad moral character. And in all probability there were others as well. And so I love that. So this you know, for the way it comes through for us, we don't really understand the depth of what was going on, and this is a reflection of the deeper meanings that are encoded within these rituals, these practices, these observations that we lose track of. And I like to bring them to light again, because it wasn't just some like, oh, you would be indulgently sitting there going, oh, aren't they sweet, those poor folk out there singing these songs. These were your workers and your neighbors and your friends to some degree, and you didn't fare well if you were not well held by the common folk of the area where you lived. They wouldn't work as hard for you. They might not come and, you know, harvest your hay or your corn, or they might not work. They might not bring their strapping young sons, or who knows. And so this was taken very, very seriously. So there's a lot of interesting examples that are talked about in the stories that I've read. But I also like to read that these Maying songs, and this holds true, well, you'll see, for wassailing also. Critical seasons of the year, midwinter, coming of spring, onset of autumn, were times for groups of carolers to go through the villages singing charms for good luck in hope of a reward of food, drink, or money. This one was sung, this is about the Swinton, was sung on May Eve or thereabouts in Yorkshire.
All in this pleasant evening together come as we, for the summer spring so fresh and green and gay. We'll tell you of a blossom and of buds on every tree, drawing near to the merry month of May. Rise up, the master of this house, all in your chain of gold, for the summer spring so fresh and green and gay. We hope that you're not offended with your house will make so bold, drawing near to the merry month of May. Rise up, the mistress of this house, with gold all on your breast, for the summer spring so fresh and green and gay. And if your body is asleep, we hope your soul's at rest, drawing near to the merry month of May. Rise up, the children of this house, all in your rich attire, for the summer spring so fresh and green and gay. And every hair all on your head shines like a silver wire, drawing near to the merry month of May. Oh, bless this house and arbor, your riches and your store, for the summer spring so fresh and green and gay. We hope that the land will prosper you both now and evermore, drawing near to the merry month of May. So now we're going to leave you in peace and plenty here, for the summer spring so fresh and green and gay. We will not sing you May again until another year, for to drive you this cold winter nights away.
And people would dress up, as you can see how lovely this is. And the older traditions were actually going to all the different parts of the barn, and this happens now, the farm rather, it happens now with wassailing, where you go to the barn and sing to the cows. You would go to the orchard and sing to the trees. You would go to the chicken coop and sing to the chicken coop, to the bees. There's verses for the bees, and that's actually my favorite song. I probably can't pull that into my mind. Maybe it'll show up. Probably not. So we're just going to put on a little bit of delicious smelling insect repellent. Sing a couple verses of this. Tell you what it's about. We've been a-ramblin' all of the night and the best part of the day, and now we are returning again. We've brought you a branch of May. A branch of May so fine and gay, all by your door it stands. It's nothing but a sprout, but it's well budded out by the work of Our Lady's hand. Wake up, you pretty fair maid, wake from your drowsy dream, and step into your dairy house and fetch us a cup of cream. Now, of course, a cup of cream would have been a very, very prolifically available thing in this point in springtime, when the things were getting warmer. The light had been growing for quite a long time before this, and the cows will start to they'll start to give birth. They'll start to give gallons and gallons of milk, both to their calves and to the people. And so this is a good time to ask for some cream, because there would usually be excess cream. And this is almost a trope. This particular verse, you hear that the pretty fair maid, please go get us this or that, usually cream. And there are multiple layers of these songs, of course, but referring to the pretty fair maid and is a very common way of discussing the season and the fertility. They talk about the young men too, but more often the pretty fair maid. Again, we're very free with our gender roles. So if you wish to be a pretty fair maid, or a stalwart young man, you can be both of those things. If not a cup, now we get to the point of it, like most people maybe didn't want to drink a cup of cream. I don't really know. Maybe they would take the cream home. But anyway, if not a cup of your cold cream, a jug of your brown beer, and if we should live to tarry in the town, we'll call on you next year. See, that could be a threat or a promise. I mean, as a promise, it'd be, we'll come again and we'll give you glad tidings, and we will bring you this blessing. And it's a real blessing. And it could be, if you're not shaping up well, if you're not doing as you should, it's a bit of a threat. Kind of like that. The hedges and green. This is my favorite verse of all the songs. The hedges and fields are closed all around with several sorts of green. Our thundering Father waters them with the sweetest showers of rain. I talked about back translating. That was back translated, but the basic idea was exactly as it is, and that was about the thunder gods, one of the thunder gods, and in Lithuania, he's called Perkūnijos. Thunor, it's one of the heathen pronunciations, and I don't know what the other heathen pronunciation, but that's when the rain comes down, that first time that the rain comes down really, really hard, and there's thunder and lightning, which was just a few days ago here, and then you wake up the next morning and everything's green. Now we understand more about nitrogen fixing and coming, the nitrogen getting fixed in the air by the lightning. But so who cares? And we have a scientific explanation, and we have a isn't this amazing that this happens kind of explanation. Both things are true, and they live together. These are two verses that have been sort of washed out of modern versions of the or turned into something funny, but in fact I really love them. Again, this is my favorite Maying song because it's complex. I It is life is part of death, and death is part of life. Obviously, that is one of our things that we realize as people who are involved in earth-centered spirituality, and it was baked into our indigenous European traditions. I dare say it's baked into all indigenous traditions around the globe. That would be a stretch because I haven't studied them, but whatever you know about them, that would be true. And so at Samhain, we bring in some of the joy of Beltane. We bring references in. We talk about joy in children. There's humor, and then also this time of year, I don't think it does well to shirk the reality of death also. So, today a man is alive, my dear, with many 100 pounds. Tomorrow morning he may be gone, and his body be underground. And when you are dead and in your grave, covered in the clay so cold, the worms will eat your flesh, good man, and your bones turn to good mold. And this, to me, harkens back to the traditions, the really old traditions of what I can call Samhain, but also, heathenry is called something else. But the Lyke-Wake dirge, this is an allusion to the same kind of instructions and sentiments that come through in those old songs, which basically is, if you want to go well, behave well on earth towards your fellow people, towards the earth, towards, if you give a pair of shoes, you will get a pair of shoes when you're walking through the gorse. This is the Lyke-Wake dirge. And I like that bit of memento mori. I think that it's always a wise thing. And then we go back to, why don't you do as we have done on the very first day of May, when from our parents we have come to run your woods so gay. For the life is short, the life of all is short, not tall. We're cut down like the grass. Here's a health to the green leaf of the tree, for as long as life shall last. And finally, the classic verses, and with this I will say goodbye, and remember cooperation and community, and dealing with your own frustration to bring peace, your own frustration, your own distress, your own difficult feelings. Have the courage to address the things that are causing lack of peace in the world around you that you bring. It's a very big challenge in and of itself. And I think it's important for us all to start there and use our spiritual, internal, magical powers towards that end. Also greed. Yeah, greed. We have a really big problem with that. Have you noticed that? So speaking of that, this is talking about having a purse. I have a purse. I, as the mayor or the visiting person, have a purse in my hand. And this has been turned, these songs got to be called begging songs. So much so that there would be verses put in about, I'm not your average beggar. I'm not the beggars that go from door to door, but we are neighbors' children whom you have seen before. And it wasn't about begging. It was about offering a blessing and offering an opportunity for you to receive that blessing. The people anciently, especially with wassailing, that time of year would be when they would be given their part of the labor that they did. And so, again, it's not a begging, it's not an asking for money, just give it to me because I'm singing you a song. This is part of a pledge of mutual reliance, pledge of mutual respect, pledge of mutual peace. And peace is not that easy if we look into our own homes. And this is a time when we are looking into our homes. Here we are doing virtual Rites of Spring. We're living in our own homes in a very intense way. Whatever's going on in our homes, looking at our own part of the good and the difficult that is coming with that. So I have a purse here in my hand, rolled up with a silken string, and all that it wants is a coin or two to line it well within. And this is both a threat and a promise. We'll go, but we'll be back, so happy May. The clock strikes 1, it's time to be gone, no longer can we stay. Oh, bless you all, both great and small, and send you a joyful May. Goodbye! Happy May! Woo! Woo! We didn't do all of our screaming that we usually do when we leave, so this is just me saying, woo! That's what happens.